I'm trying to figure out the nicest way to tell my boyfriend he's disgusting and needs to clean himself like a functioning adult, but every time I hint at it, he just hides the crust better. So my boyfriend, 24M, and I, 24F, have been dating for 4 months. I'm the kind of person who cannot let dirty dishes rest in the sink for longer than an hour, flosses every single day, and is constantly scrubbing her bathroom. My boyfriend, not so much. I noticed pretty early on that organization and cleanliness wasn't as high a priority for him as it is for me, but at the time I only noticed things like clutter on his floor and unfolded clothes, so I figured it was a normal level of bachelor slob and that I could live with it. I mean, I can get pretty messy too when I'm especially busy in lab and other things just take higher priority. However, as we have grown more and more comfortable around each other, he has really begun to relax and reveal the true extent of his bachelor frogness. 1. He will wear the same clothing for days on end, even if he worked out in them. 2. In the morning he will often avoid brushing his teeth, saying he'll do it after he eats because then I can be even cleaner, and then he'll conveniently forget after breakfast. 3. He doesn't wash his hair because he read somewhere that the oils in your hair will reach equilibrium and you will no longer look greasy. This may be true for some people, but it does not seem true for him. Plus, I think you are still supposed to rinse your hair, just not use shampoo, and he doesn't always rinse his hair regularly because. That brings me to 4. He will go multiple days without showering properly. He does usually shower right before seeing me, thankfully, but on days when I catch him by surprise he is usually unshowered. 5. I have not investigated his hairy man butt, but judging from smells once or twice during head, I am not convinced he wipes well every time. 6. One time I walked in on him in the bathroom and he was wiping his schlong on the curtain. 7. After lovemaking, I always go and pee while he throws away the rubber. Or that was the plan, anyway. I helped him move out of his sublet this month and found something like 30 used rubbers under his bed because he must just have forgotten. And 8. When he self-pleasures he just lets his man juices dry wherever it may land. He thinks I don't know this, but the suspiciously discolored and stiff spots on his blankets are one of many signs. He always washes his schlong in the sink before we made love and claims it is because he just really likes being clean. The one time I pinned him down and took off his pants for an intimate surprise, his pubes were all crusty. The thing is, as foul as all this makes him sound, he doesn't come off as obviously foul when you meet him. He doesn't smell horrible, just strongly like deodorant, which I suspect he rubs all over his body when he doesn't want to bathe. He is actually pretty stylish. He works as a programmer in a research context, spending most of his time alone or hanging out with equally gross computer scientists, so there has been little incentive for him to clean up in the past because nobody seems to care that much. I am his first girlfriend and probably the only one of his friends who is habitually close enough in his personal space to notice when his breath is funky or he has dirt encrusted on the back of his neck. Actually, most of the stuff I outlined above he probably thinks I haven't noticed, because he always tries to clean himself up and hide the signs if he knows we're meeting up. I suspect that a lot of his gross behavior is really just because he thinks he's getting away with it, rather than actually enjoying being this gross in itself. I've observed him getting a little cleaner when he finally realizes that other people are judging him. He's started brushing his teeth and washing his clothes more often, for instance, and he often tries to pretend that he actually really prizes hygiene, even commenting on his coworkers' body odor, etc. I've tried subtly hinting to him that he should clean up, and he always says, "Oh yeah, I should do that," and then he'll make sure to clean better right before I show up at his place. But if I ever spot him around town on a day when we don't have anything planned, he'll be all gross again. Clearly, subtlety is not working. However, I don't want to completely shame him either, nor do I want to have to be his mom and nag him all the time. I'm okay with a certain level of messiness. This isn't a total deal breaker for me, especially because the rest of our relationship is actually so darn good. I can even live with the general messiness of his home and personal space were we to move in together. It's just his personal hygiene that really bothers me. I know that I can't really change him fundamentally, but can I at least get him to wipe his ass better? Update, 2 months later, I felt a lot better after reading all of your comments. I was feeling guilty about judging him for his hygiene habits, because I know that different people have different attitudes towards cleanliness, and I am definitely on the obsessive end of the spectrum. I took your suggestions to heart and decided to just sit him down and get it all out in the open. I framed it both as a quality of life issue, he might get diseases, etc., if not clean, and a professional issue, other people might notice, affect his career and networking opportunities. I tried to be respectful but clear, and I stated that although I really like him and can see myself with him for the long term, if he continued not to wipe his butt properly I would have to consider that a deal breaker. He was very quiet and didn't really have much to say at the end of the conversation, but he said that he was sorry that he had been making me uncomfortable and that he would try to shape up. He said that in particular because of his passion for his work, it's easy for him to lose track of time and forget to do things like laundry, and that he appreciated me for bringing up this issue. After that conversation, about a month ago, I saw lots of positive changes. He did 1 load of laundry, and dyed all his white shirts pink, which kind of worries me because I feel like this is something you figure out how not to do as a freshman in college at the very latest. So has he just never done laundry before? Started shaving and taking out the trash weekly, and always smelled fresh whenever I saw him. He even cleaned the bathtub. I was really proud of his progress. I did notice that he would get frustrated when I pointed out things that he had missed, like always having dirty dishes in the sink or not washing the kitchen floor, which is currently really gross because someone tracked mud and dog poop all over it. Now this is the bad part where I'm ashamed of myself and the way I acted. 2 nights ago he was over at my place, and he was smelling a little funky, so I just asked him if he had brushed his teeth that day and that I had a new bottle of mouthwash if he wanted to use it. He completely blew up at me. He said that he didn't appreciate me treating him like a child and that I needed to respect that he was an adult capable of making his own adult decisions that were none of my business. I admit I didn't handle the situation very well. I got really mad and said that if he didn't want to be treated like a child, then he shouldn't act like a toddler who couldn't even wipe his butt, and that set off one of those burn the fields and salt the ground type fights that last for hours. He said that I was being really controlling and condescending and that I needed to watch myself because it was bordering on emotional abuse, and that he was already really clean, especially now that he was showering every day, so I should stop nagging him about it. I tried to clarify that I was proud of him for showering every day, but he just took it to be passive-aggressive and got so mad he called me uptight BTCH and took his coat and left the bedroom and slammed the door. I didn't know what to do, especially since we have never had a fight this intense before, and he has definitely never called me a BTCH, so I decided to just keep on sitting in the bedroom and let him cool down until he was willing to talk reasonably again. But after 20 minutes he still hadn't come back, and I couldn't hear him stomping around the common areas of the house anymore, so I started to get really worried. I mean, what if he had stormed out and gotten hit by a car or something? He also has a history of self-injury, so I was really concerned. I ran through the house and saw the light was on in the ground floor bathroom, and suddenly remembered that I had left my surgical kit on the sink. I know this sounds weird, but I work in a lab and don't want to keep my nice tools out because stuff gets stolen, and I suddenly got really scared that he had found it and it was quiet because he was cutting or something, so I burst through the bathroom door and he was rubbing his willy on the curtain again. My curtain. Obviously. I flipped out and asked him what the heck was wrong with him since there was TP right there in the cabinet if he wanted to get a new roll. He got really defensive and restarted the fight where we left off. In retrospect, I guess it was kind of funny cause he still had his willy out at this point. I just kept on staring at my curtain and trying to resist the urge to slap his stupid face. I asked him what the heck he had been doing and why the heck he thought it was an appropriate thing to do, and he said really angrily that it was my fault for yelling at him, and that anyway it felt good, and would you rather me just not freaking clean my willy because I'm pretty sure we just had a whole freaking fight about this bull crap. I told him he was disgusting and I was going to break up with him because he was such a disgusting slob. He said, "Are you really going to break up with me over a curtain? Really now? Really? Is that how much you value our relationship?" And I shouted, "Yes, get the heck out of my house, you stupid jerk," and pushed him out of the house. He tried to calm me down and apologize, but I just was so irrationally mad and kept on slapping his arm and slammed the door in his face. Eventually I heard his car start and drive away. I was still so mad that I didn't even apologize at the time and sent him a kind of mean text, "I can pick up my stuff in the morning. I know it must be hard for you to act like a human being, but please try not to wipe your willy on my things in the meantime." So that was 2 days ago and I still haven't gotten my stuff. He finally texted me back yesterday afternoon and said, "I'm sorry about the curtain and I'm sorry we're ending it this way. Can you call me?" Now that I've calmed down, I really miss him. I promise he is really amazing as a person, and we've never had any kind of fight like this before. I feel like we were both acting in ways we never thought we'd act, and I also feel really ashamed of myself for some of the mean things I said and feel like I hugely overreacted in the fight and definitely shouldn't have gotten physical at the end when I shoved him out of the house. I feel a little bit like the rhetorical crazy you shouldn't put your willy into. I wish there was some way to fix this, but I don't know how. I've never had a big relationship fight before. Also, even though I want to make up with him and apologize for my behavior and for slapping and pushing him, I don't want him to think that he can just backslide into gross habits again. I'm not sure how to navigate that conversation. I guess if we do end up breaking up, I'll have a lot of free time on my hands for new hobbies. Maybe I can learn DIY home improvement and remodel my bathroom, sew some new curtains. That was a joke, but I'm sorry if it wasn't very funny because I am feeling really down right now. Also, sorry for length. I just had to get it out. Added info on the shower curtain, so I wasn't going to describe this because it makes the whole thing even more ridiculous sounding, and also I felt bad about basically stripping my boyfriend of his dignity on the internet, but there's been a lot of questions about this, and since I am heartbroken anyway, someone might as well get some entertainment from this. He was kind of holding his willy with one hand and slapping the curtain with it. I don't know how to describe it more than that. I think maybe he was trying to simultaneously shake off the pee and wipe the tip for efficiency. Final update, 1 month after the first update. Since you all were so helpful before, I thought I would give a final update for anyone who was interested. So after I read all your comments last time, I didn't really know what to do. On the one hand, it really struck me when multiple people were saying that I must not have any self-respect to stay with and be intimate with someone who was so unclean, and about how he was handling the situation so immaturely, as was I. But on the other hand, he really was the best boyfriend I've ever had, and I kept on missing him and basically behaving like a caricature of the lonely dump girl and craving ice cream. I mean, it's not like he never wiped his butt, and he really was trying at the end. I kept on thinking that maybe I had not described the situation properly, and if I was better at explaining it, people wouldn't have piled up on him so much. I just kept on going back and forth and becoming more and more anxious that I wasn't going to make the right decision, and getting more and more anxious about how to respond to his text, and about how we'd probably have some drawn-out multi-hour long conversation about the state of the relationship if we did reply, and about how I had a ton of finals coming up that week and couldn't afford to be anxious about this, which of course only made me more anxious, etc. When I get anxious or scared, unfortunately my response is to freeze and avoid. So I just didn't respond to his text at all, thinking that maybe if I slept on it I would come up with what to do. The next day, I kept on rereading his text again and again instead of working, so I decided to turn my phone off so I wouldn't be distracted. I don't have that many friends here anyway, so I figured nobody would be looking for me. He emailed me a couple times at my school email, but it was just stuff like, "Hey, did you get my text?" So I ignored it. When I turned my phone back on about 2 days later, there were literally like 50 missed calls and tons of texts. They started out kind of nice and just asking what I thought and saying he missed me, but by the most recent text he was just calling me a BTCH and telling me to go screw myself and how ugly I was and how nobody liked me, in between calling me nonstop. I seriously did not know what to do. I haven't dated that many people before, but I'm pretty sure this is not normal behavior for a breakup. For the rest of the day I kept on getting texts and emails from him. All the emails were really harmless sounding for some reason, but all the texts were really mean. I kept on trying to ignore it and avoid the situation, yeah, kind of a pattern. But eventually, after a couple more days of this bull crap, I finally put my big girl panties on and texted back, "I don't want to talk. Please stop contacting me," and I blocked his phone number and set a filter to send all his emails to spam. I figured he would get bored of trying to contact me eventually and calm down. After I sent that text, he didn't really try to contact me via any other avenues, and we don't really have mutual friends to worry about, so I figured we would just avoid each other and that would be that. Plus it was finals week, so I wasn't going to go out anyway, plus I'm not super social, so whatever. After my last exam, I decided to celebrate by going out to get beers with my housemates, who are pretty nice even if we don't hang out a lot. At the bar I saw Matt. He tried to make eye contact, but I just avoided him and had a good time with my housemates for the rest of the night. When we got back home, he was sitting on my front door steps. He stood up when we got there and asked if we could talk. I didn't really want to, but I figured we were at my house and 2 of my housemates are pretty strong guys, so it's not like anything would happen. Plus I thought maybe it would be good for him to have closure, so I said fine, but only for 5 minutes, and asked my housemates to wait for me inside. The first thing he asked me was why I didn't reply to his texts and that it hurt his feelings. Which I thought was kind of bull crap, so I told him that he hurt my feelings with his texts, that he was saying things that were really out of line, and that I was not interested in engaging further with him, and I already asked him not to contact me again. Then he started apologizing and saying he didn't know they would hurt my feelings. He said that he was just texting random stuff to try and get a rise out of me because he was upset that I was ignoring him, and that he didn't mean any of the hurtful stuff and he was really sorry. That he had been acting out because he was so stressed with quals. That he missed me so much and was just thinking about me every night, and he understood if I didn't want to interact with him again after what he put me through, but could we please just try again? I let him talk for a couple minutes, and as I listened I just kept on getting madder and madder because it just sounded like such bull crap. But I didn't want to escalate like I did last time, so I just let him finish, and then I tried to say really calmly that originally I had been thinking about maybe trying again, but after all the craziness of the texts and how upset they made me, I didn't think it was a good idea. He said he was even more upset with himself and missed me so much that even though he had quals coming up, he really couldn't focus on them and was probably going to fail his quals if we didn't get back together because he just couldn't think of anything else but that. I told him that I was really sorry, but I was not comfortable interacting with him anymore, and that I would like him to not contact me ever again, and that I was sure he would manage to pass his quals without me. At this he started sputtering and getting really mad and called me a BTCH etc. again, so I opened the front door quickly, and luckily one of my big housemates was waiting for me by the kitchen table. And he stood up and told Matt, "You need to shut up and leave my house. Right now." So thank God, Matt just gave up and left. For the next week I started getting texts from a different number that were clearly Matt and emails from different email addresses. Mostly angry stuff about how he hoped I got what was coming to me. I just blocked everything. By the end of the week, the emails kind of petered out again. It was a huge sigh of relief. I managed to pass all my exams even through all this stress, which was another huge sigh of relief. And finally, I've been hanging out with my housemates more, especially the guy who made Matt leave. It's been really nice having new friends. They're really funny and awesome. After I told them about all the crazy stuff that happened and how totally disgusting Matt was, they went out and got me a breakup box with ice cream, chocolate, Clorox wipes, and a brand new shower curtain.